All right, chapter 20 of Wayside School Beneath the Cloud of Doom. This one, do you remember there's that closet that's not there outside Mrs. Jules's room? It said inside the closet is chapter 20. There's a big book. Looks like a question mark. We shall see. Jason did it. He finished reading all 999 pages. He was so tired he didn't know how he made it up the stairs to Mrs. Jules's class. He fell asleep somewhere around the 4th floor and awoke on the 28th. "Did you finish your book yet?" Allison asked him when he entered the room. She and Rondi giggled. "Yep," said Jason. The girls' mouths dropped open. His book report only had to be 1 page, but Jason had written 10 pages. It was impossible to write only 1 page about a 999-page book. He wondered if anybody had ever written a book with more pages. Probably not. There was probably a law against writing a book with 1,000 pages or more. He brought his 10 pages and his 3 pictures to Mrs. Jules. "I guess if somebody writes a book with 999 pages, it has to be really good," he said, "or else nobody will ever read it." "I don't know," Mrs. Jules admitted. "I've never read a book that long." Jason sleepily handed over all his papers. "Where's your paperclip?" Mrs. Jules asked. It got all bent in my backpack," he exclaimed, too tired to think about what he was saying. "Unbent, really. I guess the 999-page book was just too heavy for it." He showed Mrs. Jules his paperclip, now unbent in a crooked line. Mrs. Jules put her hand to her mouth, horrified. "You bent your paperclip?" she gasped. "Unbent," said Jason. Mrs. Jules stood up. "You better come with me," she exclaimed. She grabbed Jason by his ear and yanked him toward the door. "Ow!" he whimpered. Whispers could be heard from all around the room. He read a 999-page book, but he bent his paperclip. He wrote a 10-page book report, but he bent his paperclip. No, he unbent it. "Everybody stop talking now," ordered Mrs. Jules. "Do not leave your seats for any reason." She pulled Jason out of the room and slammed the classroom door behind her. She dragged him straight to the closet that wasn't there. Jason read the signs. "Keep back. Do not open doors. Danger. Call the fire department if you smell something unusual." He sniffed. He didn't smell anything. Yet. Mrs. Jules turned the dial on the padlock as she quietly said the combination to herself. 24, 17, 6. The lock opened. "But you said it wasn't there," Jason pointed out. "Of course it's there," said Mrs. Jules. "Hold this." She gave Jason one end of the heavy chain. He remained where he was as Mrs. Jules took the other end and walked 4 times around the closet, unwrapping it. Then she took Jason's end from him and tossed the chain aside. It clanged against the floor. A steel bar held in place by 2 clamps still blocked the closet door. The locks on the clamps had letters instead of numbers. Jason watched as Mrs. Jules set one lock to ACBD and the other lock to BDBC. The clamps snapped open. "I'm really sorry about the paperclip, Mrs. Jules," said Jason. "It's a little late for that now, don't you think?" said his teacher, and she lifted the steel bar and tossed it aside. A loud clink echoed down and up the stairs. Mrs. Jules walked down several steps. Jason watched, amazed, as she slid open a secret compartment hidden in the 3rd step from the bottom. She removed 2 keys, one red and one green. Each closet door had a keyhole. One was green and the other was red. Mrs. Jules put the green key in the red hole and the red key in the green hole. "I have to turn them towards each other at precisely the same time," she said, "or else it will trigger the siren and smoke screen." Jason held his breath as he watched her turn the keys. The doors clicked open. Ever since the closet first appeared, he and his friends had been trying to guess what was inside it. They imagined all kinds of horrible things, but what Jason saw now was worse than anything he had ever imagined. The closet was empty. "Don't lock me in there, Mrs. Jules," he pleaded. "I didn't do it on purpose. The book was too heavy." He tried to remember all that he had seen and heard. 3rd step from the top. Red key in green hole, 27614 ABDC. It was too much. It was slipping out of his brain faster than he could remember. Call the fire department if you smell something unusual. I don't want to become an unusual smell, he cried. What are you blabbering about? Asked Mrs. Jules. Why would I lock you in the closet? She bent over. Jason looked again. The closet wasn't completely empty after all. There in the back corner was a small cardboard box. Mrs. Jules picked it up. A price tag stuck to its side read 89 cents. Mrs. Jules opened the top flap and removed a paperclip. Now don't tell anyone where you got this, she said as she handed it to him. I won't, he promised. She put the box back in the closet, then shut and locked the doors, turned the color-coded keys in opposite directions. She returned the keys to their secret hiding place. She grunted as she lifted the steel bar, and then again when she set it in place. She snapped the clamps shut and spun the dials on the locks. Jason picked up one end of the chain and walked 4 times around the closet. Mrs. Jules secured the padlock. I'm very proud of you, Jason, for finishing the whole book, she said. I was kind of sorry when it ended, said Jason. Teacher and student returned to class. So in that big, huge closet was a box of paper clips. That's how much teachers love their paper clips. Have a good day.